Welcome to the Scott Holland Podcast. We are doing something a bit different for this episode. Our favorite biennial off-topic, off-season tradition on this podcast. We're talking open wheel racing. Everyone's favorite, sometimes inscrutable, rich European guy sport. One of our personal favorites here. That's Formula One. We'll note that if you're thinking, I can't believe these guys are ignoring all the off-season UFH happenings, don't fret. Just one episode back in your feed, Bobby and I talked about Cougar men's hoops alums balling out at the Vegas Summer League, some baseball draft stuff, and a variety of very good Houston Cougar-related questions for our summer Q&A. So please give that a listen if you haven't done so already. But we did this for the first time 4 years ago, kind of on a lark. I'd wanted to do a Formula One pod during the time of the year where Houston Cougar sports topics to discuss aren't as plentiful, which coincidentally is kind of at a good midpoint of the F1 season. Really enjoyed the first one I did with two of my best friends in the world, one of whom is now my regular co-host on this podcast, such that we did another one 2 years ago, which I also really enjoyed. And now we are back for a third installment to discuss a sporting thing a little outside our usual purview of Houston Cougar sports. One really, really enjoy. Bill, my longtime friend, graphic designer of this podcast, always love to have you on with us to talk a little Formula One. How are we doing tonight, friend?
I'm doing great, Sam. I hope y'all are doing well as well. I appreciate y'all having me on.
Bobby, it has been literal minutes since you and I talked. How are you doing in the approximately 4 minutes since we were last on a call doing another episode of this podcast? What's changed in your life in this time?
Here's what's changed is I didn't refill the Brita pitcher, and so I'm going with HEB sparkling water. So
solid choice.
I'm really looking forward to this because I get to call Bill an idiot about his F1 takes to his face rather than via text as I normally do. So
it's all right. Just wait for silly season. I got some spicy ones for you, bro.
You say is a challenge. Our starting point has to be probably the biggest storyline around this Formula One season. The somewhat, might even be able to remove the somewhat, the controversial new rules and regulations that all constructors have to abide by in the creation of the engines and cars for each of these constructors. I would say I'm comfortably the least technical of the three of us, so I will let you two talk about it more than me, but I will say just at the top here, to my eye, the main critiques that seem to have some validity have been that these cars are noticeably slower and underpowered as compared to the last generation and other recent previous generations, and that the on-track racing, cars passing each other and what have you, has more to do with just battery power rather than the actual wheel-to-wheel racing skill or what have you. And that related to that, these cars are quote-unquote too electric, and fans have maybe reached a breaking point of wanting the cars to go back to more powerful, more internal combustion engine, all that stuff. I've given kind of my main thoughts on this as the least technical of the three of us. I want to keep us from getting too in the weeds here, but I also don't want to just not acknowledge the biggest big picture topic here. I'm setting a 30-minute timer on all of us for this topic just because it is so easy to get in the weeds about this specific one. But Bill, honored friend, honored guest, probably the most, no offense, Bobby.
No, none taken. I knew exactly where you were headed with this
probably
one.
The most, you were a good bit ahead of me in second place, but also we're both here trailing by a decent bit. Bill, quick summary of what the new engine stuff is and how you feel about the general narrative, the racing, anything really related to the new rules, regulations, and engines here in Formula One.
Sure. So the biggest changes are that the cars are a little smaller. They're about 5% shorter, 5% narrower, 10, 20 centimeters, something like that. They bumped the cost cap by $80 million. And they've got a separate cap for the engines now. So you got a lot of money to work with on a smaller car. The tires are narrower. The ground effect is reduced from last year. So there's way less grip, and that makes everything more on edge. But the top line change is basically, instead of having like a 1.6 liter turbo engine with a little bit of a battery boost and some regeneration from heat and from motion, They got rid of the heat-based regeneration. The MGU-H is gone, but the MGU-K, which is recovering from
Kinetic.
Kinetic. Hey,
That's why you're the second on the third, because I would have taken me probably 5 guesses to get kinetic.
Motor generator U, or motor generated unit kinetic. Yeah, MGU-K. Very nice. Yeah, it's up to almost half of the total power output. So it's about 470 horsepower, and the combustion engine is doing about 540 horsepower. Same 1.6 liter turbo V6, and they've got it tuned pretty well. I mean, the first few races, there was a lot of talk about super clipping, which is, you know, the battery would start charging way before the accelerator pedal was released. So you'd wind up with this weird sound. The car would start slowing down, but the engine revs would be way up high because it's still just recharging the battery. They've tweaked some of that. I think people are less concerned about it now. Really, the only difference is it means that you don't hit the top speed for as long. And end of the day, that just means you have to manage into the braking zone a little more. It maybe lengthens the braking zone a little bit. But for me, that means that you have more battles that can flow through multiple corners. You wind up with people who can follow better. You wind up with better on-track action. Maybe it's not as fast. Maybe it's not, you know, as sporting as whatever I don't care. I love the racing. You know, things are not like spread out across the entire track now. You wind up with little clumps of cars that have good battles, 3, 4, 5 cars that can really carry things forward, corner to corner. It's great. The other big change is, for the first time in maybe ever, they've done massive changes both to the engine and to the aerodynamics package. So they've gotten rid of what was called DRS, where the rear flap on the wing would open up and let some more air through and reduce the drag
reduction system. That's
exactly.
Showing off one of the few what's the word? Shorthands that I actually know. Sorry, continue, Bill.
Yeah. Oh, this is going to be a jargon heavy episode. I'm going to do my best to not do that all the time without context. It's not going to happen. And instead, they've done some tricks with the batteries, so you have kind of a push to pass IndyCar style. If you're within a second of the guy in front, you can dump battery power to give yourself a boost. There's some of that you can use a lesser version of, just to do basic offense and defense against other cars with the battery, so you can kind of tune your engine up and down a little bit. That's they call that boost mode. But then they've got active arrows. So where they took away DRS, which was just the rear wing that could open, now they've said, all right, the rear wing can open and the front wing can lay down as well. So you get a lot more speed on the straights, but then you have to manage that into the corners. That's kind of the breakdown of the regs. Like I said, I like the racing. From some of what I know we've talked about offline, I know Bobby's got some good feelings about some of the racing. I know he's had some concerns about the super clipping in the past. Sam, I haven't heard a lot about it from you, but I'm going to toss it to Bobby and say, what do you think, bud?
Yeah, I think for me, the engines, I think a lot of people have talked about the engines, and you definitely see it on straights. Like, people who are managing their batteries a little bit more blow past their opponents on straights.
Oh,
but
yeah.
What makes it fun is that the guy who just got passed does have that active arrow as well, and so he gets blown past. But heading into the corners, you can see a lot there. I think early on in the season we ran into some problems, and you've kind of seen it a little bit, where drivers didn't quite know what was going to happen to their car when they would hit a corner, and you saw it with Max. You saw it. I want to say Kimi maybe in a qualifying or a practice, where the revs just shot up and they lost the back end, and you were getting some pretty heavy crashes there, and there was some concern there. But what has ended up happening is it's made the racing a lot better. And I've always been somebody who's like, I just want to figure out who the best team and driver are. And so I don't like doing things artificially. This has been a big change. And you've seen that, previous reg changes, what we've seen is one team figures them out way before everybody else does and immediately jumps out in front. And you could kind of say that's happening this year, which we'll get into a little bit. But we've seen like 5 different drivers win races this year, like 3 different teams. We've seen teams competing for podiums. Now, is it the same top 3-4 teams? Yeah, it is. Like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's not. But it's the teams with the most money that are spending. I know there's the cost cap, but the ones who have the best drivers, the one who have teams of 1 bajillion people, like you're seeing that. Now, one of the reasons why the reg change happened in terms of the engines is they wanted more and more team manufacturers to get involved. And one of the things that like Audi, that Cadillac, that some of the other teams have really said that they want they want people to pay attention to is they want more hybrid, because that's where cars are going. Like road cars are going there. And despite this being a sport that we all love to watch, it's a lot of marketing going on here. And a lot of things you see in modern cars started in F1. Right. And they started at those high levels, the hybrid engines, the fuels, all those kind of things kind of started in F1. And on American cars, you see the same kind of with NASCAR, things like that. But a lot of the tech that you see in your car, the fact that your car runs on a computer nowadays, that started with F1. Like F1 started that, and a lot of the technology we have in cars. And so you want manufacturers in there, but manufacturers want you to say, yes, but we need to also have things that are going to help us develop road cars that we can sell, right? And you see that with some of these manufacturers. They have cars that say, this is an engine that was developed using the same technology that was used in a Formula One car. It's a marketing for a lot of these companies. And yes, like McLaren doesn't need the marketing of Formula One. Cadillac loves it. Aston Martin probably loves it a lot. Mercedes, like, not saying that Mercedes isn't. You know what, Sam? I saw your face. I saw you go.
Just for Aston Martin, your broader point is 100% correct. I'm not making a face at your point.
But like,
Aston Martin might disagree for this specific season, but again, your broader point is 100% correct.
Mercedes love, like, everyone thinks that it was like getting Cadillac and getting Audi in to do that. Mercedes wanted a lot of these hybrids, this engine to go hybrid as well. I do think that some of the concerns were warranted, but man, it's been fun to watch races this year. In the past, it's been the best driver with the best car is going to win every single race, right? We saw that last year with McLaren winning a bunch of races. Now, we did have some fun with the drivers' championship there, but how many years in a row did Lewis win, and you knew Lewis was going to win because they just had the best engine? And I don't think anyone's really truly figured out the regs yet. I think there is adios or audio, where basically what it is they wanted to test engines, how far the best engine was ahead of the other ones, and then you gave extra.
It's like ADUO. It's like ADUO. So
and they gave those extra. They gave some extra money and some extra time in a wind tunnel too. I say wind tunnel. There's a bunch of different things they do, but they gave them extra development hours. And you saw, like, the team that's in first place right now did not have the best engine. Like, that was Red Bull who had the best engine, and the number 1 team right now is Mercedes. Like, so Red Bull may have figured out, and yes, Mercedes has probably beaten the test, and they found little ways around it. That's what makes F1 awesome, is that Mercedes has the best engine, but also it doesn't
sandbag is the most.
It's so awesome that they're
the most high dollar sandbagging in sports.
Yeah, it's crazy.
The funny thing about that, Red Bull's just the combustion engine is what's being measured for ADUO. So Mercedes has the best power unit, period, because they've got the batteries, they've got the motor, or the electric motor figured out. But
so you just Red Bull has that, like, the best mechanical engine, right? The best traditional engine isn't by the best team, because they were able to figure other things out. Mercedes has arguably the best aerodynamics in a car right now. You see Red Bull struggling with it. And Red Bull's a team that's never worried with their aerodynamics because they had one of the greatest car designers of all time, who's now at Aston, who can't figure out their car. So, like, there's a lot of things like that, and all the teams at the top are really close. The midfield is close, and even the back markers, probably the three worst teams, I would say, Williams, Aston, and Cadillac. They're close to one another. They may not be close to the rest of the midfield, but these clusters of teams are really close, and it's been really fun to watch.
Yeah.
You know, maybe one of the benefits of being a more, like, I wouldn't call myself a casual Formula One fan. I watch every race. I watch every qualifying. I'll watch practices if I want something on in the background while I'm working or something like that. I would say I'm a dedicated fan of sport. Maybe the benefit of being a fan who's more casually acquainted with the finer technical aspects of the rules and regulations is that, to what you said, Bill, it's not as important to me whether the racing is good because of the battery differences or it's good because of the specific, really nitty-gritty driver skill set stuff. And one of my biggest pet peeves are the people who cover F1, whether that's your more established legacy media types or the quote-unquote fan media, is they always seem to want to whine about something. I think that's like an English European guy kind of thing. They always want to whine about something, which, again, I fully understand is also not the job of the people who cover the sport to uncritically love everything about F1 and not criticize and push back when needed. God knows F1 at points in its history is probably needed more than it was given. But the early season was such constant whining that I already don't consume much F1 content outside of the races and related events like qualification, sprint race, sprint qualification, etc. Because I was just so tired of the constant, just like, oh, isn't this the worst racing known to humankind?
Yeah.
It's just
This thing's going to be terrible. And then you watch it and you're like, kind of fun.
it was entertaining. Like,
slapped.
yeah. I don't think the whining is entirely off base, though. I mean, I think when it comes to electrification, you have a hard time making an argument against it being a net negative for the cars going fast. Am I wrong on that, guys? Am I being too anti-electric? Electric car fundamentally does not go as fast.
As the resident flaming hippie here, right? The guy with two EVs.
Boy, I'm glad he said hippie. No,
the best part about them is the torque, instant torque, and it means you accelerate like crazy. And I mean, F1 cars already get off the line in a hurry, but just to have it be instant, I mean, you wind up spending more time accelerating and decelerating than you do being at top speed. So all of the gains are in the acceleration and in the braking. So the fact that that's where these regs have kind of focused the effort, I think that's made the racing better. I just don't see any of the complaints. Now, maybe for somebody who's been in it for 40 years and they're remembering the 90s and da 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 da. Okay, well, you're still better off than you were in the 90s. I mean, you're still better off than you were in the 70s. The cars are much too large for a lot of tracks, Monaco especially. But I mean,
that's not a regulations problem either. You know what I mean? Like you can't. Yeah, you can't create any regulation that'll do anything that makes Monaco a real race. We'll say, I was gonna say, and the reason you have electrification is exactly what you said, Bobby. It's for, like, you have automakers in here, and that's where road cars are going to, and this is like kind of ground zero for implementation of like road car technologies of the future and testing those out. Like that's why Audi got into the series. Like that's why Audi bought the old Sauber Alfa Romeo team, was to get in the series. I mean, for the marketing stuff too, to put out Audi's, you see Audi logo now on two cars every Formula One race, which is not small from a marketing standpoint, but it's truly most important, the testing of, as I say, the testing of really cutting edge stuff. And by doing so, you need electrification. I'll just say, like, the silliest part of it to me is we're going to be net zero. Really, Formula One, which uses a ton of like non-biodegradable tires, and like the majority of their working drivers fly private to all these events around the world in this incredibly far-flung schedule. Like it is noble to be net zero. I'm not anti in that sense. I'm just saying, like, trying to make the cars somewhat electric for the sake of making the series more environmentally friendly to me is like throwing a tiny ice cube into a boiling pot of water. Like, I don't doubt the intention.
I agree.
But I don't know what it does. But also, it's a much small. But I don't actively dislike it. It just every time I hear them on one of the broadcasts be like, as part of Formula One's net zero 2030 policy, like, oh, we get to tell Max Verstappen he has to fly Virgin now from fucking Australia back to his home base in Monaco or whoever.
The thing is, they can't go full electric. Not that they would, but they can't because they have a contract with Formula E that says we will not go 100% electric. And on top of just the cars and the racing there and the private jets, you've got all this freight for 21 teams being shipped months and months in advance, using like nasty bunker fuel for the shipping. You're not going to hit net zero for the sport as a whole. So they have like all of these caveats about, it's net zero for certain cargo and, the racing on track and all this. And it's like, I'm all about harm reduction. That's awesome. But yeah, to blatantly say net zero like that, it's not, and it won't be. And you know what? I'm kind of okay with that because it is its own thing, and
I can appreciate the effort.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we also have to all of us deal in reality at some point.
Yep.
We'll say I want to end on a negative thing because, I'm generally positive about the racing. Yes, the car might be like a half second slower on this track, the first year of a new regulation set than it was last season or 2 seasons ago, well into the previous regulation set. That's not perceptible to me, man. It's not like the cars are going from 190 something miles per hour to going the speed that my sedan is when I push down on the accelerator here. It's like, it's a few miles per hour. Okay. Yeah. Okay. The average speeds are still extraordinarily high.
Yeah.
And I can't perceive it on the TV. And certainly, like, it's worse in person. Like, you can't tell the difference in person between the car that just zoomed by you at whether it was 195 or 190 miles per hour. I'm sorry. Like, you're not perceiving
my laser
that,
eyeball's not tuned to see the difference between 194 and 196.
I don't care. Like, I've watched European racing trucks. It's not about the speed, I promise you.
No, it's just fun to watch. Yeah, it's fun to watch guys go fast towards each other and like narrowly miss each other and do amazing things in machines that you can't even begin to comprehend in the full scope. They're amazing. I will say the other thing I've really enjoyed about the races this year is the starts. The first 5 or 6 laps, everybody's all bunched up. It takes a long time for that field to develop. It used to be, halfway through the first lap, you'd have 2 guys way out in front, maybe a third guy, and that was it. The whole thing, you could have called it, from like 2017. Mercedes, every time it's that Squidward with his beach chair meme. You walk in, you go, I'm going to sit down and watch. Oh, nope, I'm going to leave now because I know it's going to be Hamilton. So,
or like 3 or 4 years ago, Verstappen.
Yeah. I got to say that, aside from that stupid red flag at the end of Monaco where Leclerc hit that pothole and went into the wall, Monaco notwithstanding, I can't wait for a red flag, a standing restart towards the end of the race, say with 4 to 7 laps to go, because that could get real spicy with these restarts.
We thought we might get one in Silverstone, and then they just were like, no, we have one, but just kidding.
No, the FIA can't have any fun.
No, yeah, exactly. Despite telling the broadcast, if you watch it, is like, we'll get to the actual like most exciting races and stuff. They were just like, oh yeah, restart's coming. They just kind of just awkwardly like, well, guess it's
safety car's coming in this lap. Oh wait, never mind.
Last lap,
safety car's staying out.
Race is done here. Any more thoughts about not that they won't come up organically still as we talk about the other topics, but specific to the new regulations, new racing. We've as I say, look at us. We've been great on time here. We have a little bit more time to play with on this topic.
Not really a regulation change. Couldn't figure out where else to put this in my notes. I think it's interesting that if I finally grew up and said, all right, look, conflict in the region is too much. We're not going to have the Bahrain and the Saudi race.
Which it sounded
I mean,
like.
a couple of years ago, there were
They
missile
thought about
strikes not 10 miles from the track. You could see the smoke rising, and they didn't cancel that race. I mean, the only thing I can think is maybe they were far enough behind the curve on shipping things that they couldn't get stuff through the Strait of Hormuz in time.
Yeah.
But I mean, that would have been months in advance. I mean,
yeah, but I think there was for me with those, I would say that what stopped that from happening was it was multiple countries, and it was the entire region that you didn't know, and you were dealing with a regime that you don't know what they were necessarily going to do. Like the missile, or the one a couple of years ago that hit the Aramco, you're kind of like, and we all agree that that race probably shouldn't have happened anyways.
No,
I think it was definitely this time. It was like, well, we got to spend a month here, and we really don't know. Like, we have a friend who lives in that part of the world, and they didn't live there for a long while because it was not safe to be there. So they probably couldn't assure their safety like they probably could with that once off strike in Saudi Arabia a couple of years ago.
Yeah. From what I remember, that was the Houthis that Saudi's been on and off again fighting with. That was like they deliberately said like we're not going to strike the stadium.
Mm-hmm.
I think because they realized that probably would be like that would entangle them in a much more direct and violent conflict. This is more a statement like, hey, we're here, buddy. Like you're talking about us this week. Whereas I think, and again, not a geopolitical expert here, but I think in this case, the other party, the regime in Iran would have much less hesitancy to strike here. Much, I think, and also much more specific beef with with like Bahrain, with Saudi Arabia, who are like, or were, I guess in this case, venues slated to host a Formula One race this season.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk also about both the individual, the Drivers' Championship, and the team Constructors' Championships tonight as they stand here in mid-July. I think we'll lead with the more compelling of the two championship races right now, the Drivers' Championship, although if either of you take issue with my description there, please don't hesitate to let me have it here in this forum. Kimi Antontelli, top driver on the top team so far, Mercedes. He's your current Drivers' Championship leader, probably odds-on favorite to win it when the season finishes, but only has a 25-point lead to this point over his Mercedes teammate George Russell, 32-point lead over the top non-Mercedes driver, Ferrari's Lewis Hamilton, which both cases far from an insurmountable lead with as much racing as we still have left to see this season. Bobby, as probably, at least historically, the most Antonelli skeptical co-host, can you make the case for the listeners, Bill and myself, for a non-Antonelli or even a non-Mercedes driver winning the 2026 Drivers' Championship? How confident would you feel about that happening at this point?
Yeah, I mean, let me clarify something real quick. I
knew it.
Just was very clear that I didn't think he was ready. I thought it was insane to bring a guy up that was like sixth place in F2 because you were scared he might.
Oh yeah, God forbid someone drive, and like the Mercedes car in the last generation sucked. So like, oh yeah, God forbid we don't give Lewis Hamilton one more season in this dog turd of a car relative to Mercedes. Sorry.
It's not even that I thought you should have kept Hamilton over him. You're one of the top three teams in the sport. Like you could probably wait till he's 20, but he's definitely proving me wrong so far this year. And again, I don't dislike Kimi Antonelli. My thought was that I thought it was too early for him. He's proven me wrong. This year, last year I was kind of wrong. Like last year was his rookie year, and he looked like a rookie at times. But this year he's gone to the next level. Yes, I do think somebody else could win. I don't know if they will. Kimi has definitely shown that he is better with this car so far this year than George is. They do have the best car, so I do think it's going to be one of them. Maybe you can make the argument for Lewis, but Lewis got one win. I don't know if I'd go there. But I think George Russell's got a shot. It's only 25 points right now. That's 3 races where you win and no, it's 4 technically. Because it's an 8-point difference between first place and second place. Am I correct on that? 25-17, right?
Yeah.
So he would need to win 4 more races than Kimi does, and that's absolutely possible. And you've seen George in the second half of the first half of the season really kind of come around and start taking some wins off Kimi and racing Kimi a lot closer than it was earlier. I think George is finally starting to agree with this car, and you've seen George do really well the last couple of races. So I think if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be George. I don't foresee like Lando coming back. He's 80 points out. Lewis is probably the next closest. Lewis has looked good with this car. In again the second half of the first half of the season. And so I think it's going to be George or Lewis. I'd lean towards George just because he's a little bit ahead of Lewis. But Kimi, like Sam said, probably the odds-on favorite right now. But George has looked really good the second half of the first half.
Well, I'll put it to you this way. George is 25 points down. And if he hadn't DNF'd in Canada, he'd only be 18 points down. And that was a technical DNF. So I don't think that there's any real reason that George can't win it. I think he's got a fighting shot here. And the biggest difference is, it's a 7-point drop to go from P1 to P2. And George has a bunch of P2s. And a lot of those were close. So I think he's got the best shot of taking Kimi's spot here. Now, you were talking about Lewis being good in his car. I think that's an understatement. I think Ferrari has figured something out. I think their Macarena wing, where their rear wing flips all the way upside down. I think that has been a very interesting development for them. I think that they've got good aero. They've got a good engine. They actually built their engine to the regs and didn't complain about them like everybody else did. They had a smaller turbo to start the year. So now that they've had their ADUO assessment, they've got a bigger turbo coming. They've got all these extra changes that they nerfed themselves to meet the regs. I think they're going to be on fire coming out of the summer break. And Lewis looks like he's enjoying himself. He looks like he's got that smirk back that he was missing last year, the last couple of years at Mercedes. He is feeling himself. I would look out for Lewis. I do feel bad about Charles. That poor man has spent so much of his career getting so close to being great and then binning it or having Ferrari call some stupid strategy. And somehow his side of the garage has just always had a bad strategist hanging out, just waiting for the, let me try this one button. And I think he's 71 points down from Kimi. He's out of it. He's completely out of it. Norris, the reigning champ, he's so far back. Now, he did have a DNS, did not start in China. He had 2 back-to-back did not finishes in Canada and Monaco. That's about 30, 35 points that he's missing, and he would then be pushing Lewis for third. But I think that McLaren just missed it at the beginning of the year, and they've been on a back foot ever since.
Yeah, and you can say he missed out on those points, and you can make that argument all you want to, but the reality is he still missed out on those points, and
absolutely,
you don't suddenly have a chance to get those points back. Like
I agree. That's where he's. Look, even if he had those 30 or 35 points, he's only pushing for third, right? And even then, he's a string of his own perfection and other people, failing to finish to even draw level with Antonelli. Like that's it. It's Kimi and it's George, and maybe it's Lewis if the Ferrari upgrades come around, like I think they will.
I'm cynical we'll see a non-Mercedes champion because of all the rumblings out there that Mercedes have coming improvements that will make the car more reliable, or maybe to be more specific, allow them to run their engine
Harder.
Yeah. Well, I think not really their only weak point this season has been reliability. And so
it was that one race for the battery. It was Canada for George's battery. That was their only real flaw for reliability.
Yeah, exactly. So as much as I've enjoyed seeing Ferrari be better, and I think I've allowed myself to get talked into, even though most of the on-track evidence we've seen is that Antonelli has been better than Russell this season. But I could talk myself into a future where, maybe George gets more comfortable with the car, especially coming off the summer break, here in the future. And, Antonelli, who's, to be fair, George has never really been in a title race either. Like his sum total of experience with a team that it was, I would say, even close to one of the 3 or 4 better cars in the grid is this Mercedes team during its least successful era in the last decade and change. And that was the 4 seasons, or was it? He was there. He was there for the 4 seasons. He was there for the full reg set with Mercedes, right? He got there.
Yep.
He got there right as the car became
era.
Yeah, it was that was the funny part is he was always in a bad car, and then he got the call up to.
He's finally on his feet.
He's finally going to compete for a championship, and we're going to see everything he does. And then it was like, nope.
Oh, this car's dog water too. Great.
I'll just say there's a reason why, and it is, again, this should be a feather in Antonelli's hat because this tells you what a special driver he is. But there's a reason why a guy his age, which is to say less than 20 years old at this point, has ever won the whole thing. So I'll be curious if at some point you see the car swing. Oscar Piastri last season in the best car, which is the McLaren, looked a lot more comfortable early.
Yeah.
And it got kind of interesting late, but it was mostly interesting because Max Verstappen was chasing Lando Norris than interesting because of Oscar Piastri. And you saw a younger, less experienced in Formula One teammate maybe just not have it down the stretch the same way as more veteran teammate did, which I think could happen here, but that's a lot of projecting and assuming that it could happen. Like Antonelli, for the evidence that we have, has been the better driver on track for the most part.
He looks like he looks comfortable. Like he doesn't look like a second-year guy. He looks like he's been around multiple seasons. He looks like he's been, running for championships his entire career. And even George was slated or like tipped to be the champion. Like he was the favorite in the paddock start the season. Kimi has just found an edge everywhere you look. 5 wins back to back. He's got he's got the only Grand Slam of the season, and it was at Monaco. So that's pole, fastest lap, led start to finish, and won the race. I'm going to ask y'all, who was the last driver to have a Grand Slam? I'll give you a hint. It was last year.
The obvious answers that you would think would be Lando or Piastri, but I feel like you're only asking us because that's not the answer.
Bingo.
And I would say Charles Leclerc in somewhere last year.
You were right. It was Lando at Monaco last year. So Kimi at Monaco this year, Lando at Monaco last year. And put it this way, I don't know, that feels pretty good. As you're in your second season, you get a Grand Slam, one of 70 drivers ever, 70 Grand Slams ever. You're in the territory with like Schumacher and Senna and Fangio and Norris, who went on to win it last year. So he's incredible. I'm all on board the Kimi train here.
To something Bill said at the top, I will reiterate, it's been awesome to see Lewis Hamilton, who'd previously been mired in a several-year run of driving a Mercedes car that we just talked about not being especially good during the last rules and regulations cycle. Really also bottomed out last season, driving Ferrari's car in that last season of that cycle after the 3 previous at Mercedes. I don't think I think didn't he get like a podium in the sprint last season, but didn't get a podium in a feature race.
Correct.
Yeah. And that's really, it's kind of depressing for one of the genuinely best drivers out there. I mean, I was never his biggest fan, but it may be kind of sad to see one of the very best to ever do it look so downtrodden in the previous few seasons, not look like the guy that you saw just win so many races and be one of the best to ever do it. And I think it's the inner sports fan in me. I hate seeing, with a few exceptions, legends end their career looking like a shadow of their former selves. So I appreciate that for
Mac
the first
Brown.
times. Exceptions. I appreciate, I think for the first time since 2021, having a season where he looks like he's having fun driving the car. Like that's been cool, even as someone who was never his biggest fan.
Yeah.
And I'll acknowledge my anti-Leclerc bias also here, historically. And like he's one of the most talented drivers in the grid. I'm not going to say anything other than that here. I'm just going to say he sure looks like he's the second best driver here now that he has a really, like if you believe Leclerc's biggest fans, he's just Lewis Hamilton without the luck of Lewis Hamilton being in Mercedes the generation he was in, which there are little grains of truth to. And I certainly don't think that Leclerc has got entirely the best circumstances drawn up for him, whether it was the Ferrari's car, whether it was Ferrari's strategic decisions, but it never seems like it's his fault. It's never Charles Leclerc's fault. Oh, he's just so unlucky. He's so unlucky when he mishandles the car. Oh, he's so unlucky when he's consistently slower than Lewis Hamilton. Like, I know he just won a race. Like, I realize narrative-wise I'm fighting uphill here because he did win the most recent Formula One race to when we record this. But season results, eye test, I mean, no one's going to argue with me that Hamilton's looked like a lot better in the car than Leclerc has in 2026.
Well, and everybody keeps saying, "Oh yeah, if Ferrari would just get out of his way and give him a good car and give him a good strategy, he'd be sailing." I mean, he's got the same car as Lewis, and I mean maybe a couple different strategists here and there, but Lewis is just walking away from him. So I think you're right. I think
man. If only I had the swing in the short game of a tour player, I could be a tour player.
Exactly. Yeah. That's right.
It is kind of a bummer that we can't make the argument for anyone but like two guys to win the title. Like, but I mean, I don't think we're going to just have a hot take. Here's have a hot take. Sorry, Bill, you're about to say something.
I was going to say the one that still is kind of like, oh, hang on. This is refreshing. We don't have this guy in the conversation. Max has not been anywhere near.
Oh man, that's so disappointing. I'm so disappointed by that. Oh man, I'm so
sad. It's refreshing not to have him sucking up all the oxygen, and we'll get into this a little later in the silly season stuff. But man, he's got a contract clause that we need to be paying attention to now that we're coming up on the summer break. So.
But it's not. I hate to be the one to defend him on here. I don't really like Max Verstappen, but that's not a Max Verstappen being worse at driving.
It's not.
That is Max Verstappen having fourth best car most weekends.
At best, yeah. I mean, by
sometimes better than McLaren, but certainly
never
on the level of the Mercedes and not the Ferrari either.
Yeah, I would say they're third or fourth. I would argue fourth. Just based on the team standings, things like that. It just and I would argue that car is probably at that level. You look at his teammate Isaac Hadjar; he's kind of been fairly close with Max. I think I never like to base what the what Red Bull does off how good Red Bull's car is based off the best driver on the in the world right now when it comes to Max Verstappen, because you see what his teammates do a lot. But Isaac's up there with him in terms of points. He's only 24 behind Max. So I think that's where that car lands, is the fourth best car.
Yeah. Well, and they've got the problems with the rear wing. They tried to copy Ferrari's rear wing, and they put different pivot point or something, and it flips the other way around. And
Yeah, it's not good.
It seems to have problems when it closes.
Put Max in a wall in Silverstone.
Yeah, he's finding all kinds of walls and gravel traps because of that. And I think that he's finally found a car that he doesn't just instantly adapt to. Like everything else he's ever driven, he's been able to go, oh, I'm Max Verstappen. I'm the greatest driver on earth. And I will just drive this thing like I drive everything else. And for once, he's found his match, or mismatch, I guess. I mean, but
Bobby, I really am glad you brought up Isaac Hadjar. Like, I think he's one of the most underrated seasons, because if you don't follow the sport super closely, being Max Verstappen's teammate after Daniel Ricciardo left, it was 2018, right? Bill was his last season there. I'm getting that right.
Yeah.
Daniel Ricciardo, who was at the time an older but probably not long-term favorite as much, teammate of Max Verstappen's at Red Bull, left for a massive payday to go for the Renault F1 team. Didn't work out great for anything there except for Daniel's bank account, which it worked out fabulously for there. But every teammate since then, like, they promoted. Let me see if I can do it from memory, guys. Promote Pierre Gasly, and I don't think he. I was gonna say, does he? I don't think he even was. He's there. Doesn't he get demoted for?
He was there for like 6 races tops.
Yeah. He gets demoted. Alex Albon, who was a Red Bull junior, gets promoted to the big team. I think lasts all of the COVID season in 2020, but doesn't really do amazingly. He leaves, is replaced by a veteran, Sergio Perez, who's just a great driver on teams that probably didn't have race-winning cars, though he did win a race with a car that had no business winning one, which is cool. But he eventually just becomes like, he helps Max win a title with some good defending in Abu Dhabi and, some creative applications of the rule book in 2021. But yeah, the Dutch are going to be very, very displeased with what I have to say there. But eventually, just he becomes so hilariously behind Verstappen that he just doesn't justify the veteran salary, even bringing in just truckloads of Mexican sponsor cash and commercial appeal in that country. And they promote a longtime junior, Yuki Tsunoda, who we all kind of like, oh, he's kind of an interesting guy. Like, let's see how he does. And Yuki might be his worst teammate of any of the ones he's had. Like that, it's just been a cursed seat. Like no one can do it. And Isaac has been worse than Max. But like, yeah.
You forgot Liam Lawson.
Oh yeah, Liam Lawson for two races last season. Yeah. Finished like 18th and 20th. Got demoted back to the junior team, and they're like, all right, well, we've run out of other juniors, so Yuki Tsunoda.
And Daniel Kvyat to start. He was there before. He was there before Gasly.
Between Gasly, wasn't it between Gasly and Albon?
No, Kvyat was before Gasly.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, it's
we're getting someone in there.
Max has been there for 10 years, maybe.
The
11.
car is so built to Max. Like it.
Yeah.
Anybody who's ever driven it is like, it's so on the edge, and it's so
front end is so pointy and sharp.
Yeah.
and that's Max's style.
And
but, I mean,
so as you're growing up and coming through racing, it just doesn't. That's not how the car always feels for you. You have to be very skilled to do it. You're on an edge, and it's very easy to spin out and lose the grip. And you've seen that multiple times with their drivers. And anyone who's talked about it, Liam Lawson talked about it. He was only in the car for 2 races, but Liam's looked good in the Visa Cash App Racing Bulls car. And he has he talked about it in interviews where he's like, you just get in it and it's so sharp. It's so difficult to drive. And it talks about how good Max is. It's not even that Max necessarily prefers his car to feel that way. He just can take the car to limits that other places can't. Like, he can get things out of a car. He doesn't need the assist, like, quote unquote assist that the other drivers have. He can just ride on the edge like that.
Yeah. I mean, one guy in one seat for 11 years and 7 or 8 other guys in the other seat. That just shows you that, I mean, one guy is just incredible and the other guys are struggling to stay on form with him, and the car built around him. It's not going to go well for them. So,
but I think it bodes really well. And Hadjar, obviously, if you make it to Formula One, you are a serious racing prospect. or your dad is like worth the GDP of like 100 countries. And Hajar is not. Hajar is definitely in the former category there. That he's obviously been worse than Verstappen because literally anyone you put in that seat is going to be worse. But like, hasn't been that far off the pace. And after a really rough start to the season, I don't think he finished in 3 of his first 4 races. Has, I think, gotten what you could reasonably expect out of that car, which is to say he's been around the top 5 or top 6. Generally, like looks confident racing. Like you see guys in that seat, they might start out with a decent result or two, and they just completely lose their confidence trying to figure out the car. And you're not seeing that. You're seeing the opposite. You're seeing a guy who got kind of off to a bit of a rough start, who clearly is driving his best right now. That's cool. He wasn't a serious prospect. Like he wasn't a prospect the level of Max, obviously, but even guys before him like Albon and Gasly. I remember when he got promoted to Red Bull's junior team last season, it was more of a, well, they needed someone in F2
Fill a seat.
to fill the seat. Like he wasn't bad, but everyone was like, he's a little insane on the radio, which he is, but it clearly works for him. And he had just about the worst result possible in his first race. They were doing the literal warm-up lap around the track in Australia, and he bins the car. Like your Formula One race that you've been looking forward to since you set foot in a kart as a small child, and you ended it by just fucking the car before you even got to the race. Like,
yeah,
that's a nightmare start to your career. And it's been pretty awesome for him since then. He absolutely outperformed his more veteran teammate in the junior team, Liam Lawson, and I think he's done well here in his early part of the season at Red Bull. And I'm glad we got a chance to shout out my guy. So we'll get to the Constructors' Championship now. This feels like a bit of a less exciting one, as much as the Drivers' Championship has become more interesting than I expected after the opening race. Mercedes still has a pretty sizable lead over your second place in the Constructors' Ferrari. It's a 78-point lead as of recording tonight. Not theoretically impossible ground to make up. And we'll say Ferrari has won 2 of the last 3 races as of recording. So that's since the British Grand Prix 2 Sundays ago. Lewis Hamilton has 2 finishes of second in his last 2 races, with Charles Leclerc winning the aforementioned British Grand Prix. So to repeat myself, Ferrari is looking a lot punchier, but, and either of you can feel free to disagree with me and interrupt me and say if you think I'm wrong here, Mercedes is going away favorite to win the thing. If we didn't think that a non-Mercedes driver was going to win the Drivers' Championship, stands the reason that much lower chances than anyone's going to win the Constructors besides Mercedes. I mean, it's had reliability issues in Mercedes, and an improved Ferrari means that maybe, the Mercedes can't go out and dominate the way Red Bull did 3 seasons ago, the way Mercedes did most of the 2014 to 2020 when the hybrid era started in F1. So I guess we could be grateful that this isn't a repeat of Verstappen 3 seasons ago, or Hamilton and Rosberg, or Hamilton and very occasionally Valtteri Bottas. Before that, like, the Ferrari's a lot liver of a dog to maybe like win the race, but this is a real one-team race, and it's more about can Ferrari keep this from being an absolute laugher? How many races before the end of the scheduled season ender are we going to get to before Mercedes has clinched the title? It's not as bad as it could be. I mean, Bill, you're the only one with enough imagination to answer this. No offense to me and Bobby. I mean, I'm not even saying that this isn't. No, it's not. Look, I'm just saying, like, Bobby and I have such small minds. We'd just be like, you'd be like, well, I don't think this is going to happen, but I can work up the argument for how this is going to happen. Bobby and I would just be like, no, man, it's not going to happen. So I know you don't believe it because you already said, like, hey, like, I don't really think a non-Mercedes driver can win this, obviously. I mean, what's the argument? Does, like, Mercedes reliability get a lot worse? Is there, like, what reality does it happen, the 1 in 1,000 or the 1 in 500, where Ferrari not even wins this, makes it an interesting Constructors' Championship?
Okay, so
I mean, if the answer is no, the answer is, man, I'm not
here.
Yeah. You don't think
I'm going to join the ranks of the small-minded here. There's not a chance that Ferrari can do this without some serious help from Mercedes failing a lot. And really, it's the cars. Sure, you put 4 clones of the same driver in there, the Ferrari absolutely has a shot. But if you've got Kimi and George in a Mercedes versus Lewis and Charles in a Ferrari, I'm sorry, Charles isn't doing anything. He's not helping the case for Ferrari, and you need both drivers doing well. That's why in 2024 McLaren won the constructors, but Max won the drivers for Red Bull because Yuki couldn't keep up with Max, but Lando and Oscar were a good match, right? So this is a constructors championship, yes, but it's also it requires the drivers. And so where I think the Ferrari could give Lewis a real shot at the title, because I think Ferrari is going to have some good upgrades, and I don't think that Mercedes can pull as many rabbits out of the hat because they didn't start from as far back. I think that the upgrades for Mercedes are going to keep them ahead of most of the pack, and putting that in the hands of two incredibly capable drivers is going to propel them to the Constructors' Championship. And if you had a second Lewis, or if you had Max or Lando in the other seat at Ferrari would have a good chance. But with a 7-time champ and Charles Leclerc, you can't make up that gap.
Yeah, I think Mercedes is gonna win this thing. When you have the top two drivers, you're gonna have to see a lot of DNFs by Mercedes, by the Mercedes team, and you're gonna have to see. I wouldn't depend on their drivers making the mistakes. It's gonna have to be that battery that we talked about earlier that was doing so well. It's gonna have to be that, right? In not the last race, was it the last race? I can't remember off the top of my head. Kimi had part of his car explode.
Yeah, it wasn't a battery issue. Wasn't it? Yeah, it was like the thing that held the wheel or something.
It was the air vent, the brake duct air vent that is very important. Like, it seems so small, but it's very important for downforce and going through corners and things like that, and maintaining your speed
cooling
in the corners.
The wheels and not cooking the tires.
Yeah, and so that became a problem for him, and he actually had to retire the car. Did he retire, or did he finish it under?
No, he finished it out.
Yeah,
but he
got a penalty, and he didn't get any points for that race.
Right, he couldn't keep it on the track, so he was getting.
Yeah. And so it's going to take stuff like that, where the Mercedes car is just falling apart. The engine explodes, the battery overheats, or parts of the car just start falling off.
That penalty also gave us a great radio call, by the way. There's like, Kimi, you've been assessed. Denze, he's like, I can't control the car. How would I? It's like, buddy, we know you're not intentionally doing this, but also, like,
the rules, dude.
If your car goes in that spot, whether you tried to or not, like,
it's still, man. Like, I didn't mean to have pass interference. It just happened.
Yeah,
right.
Like
I know all the answers to that test.
Yeah,
I just couldn't remember them at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like his engineer, Pete Bonington, longtime Lewis Hamilton race engineer at Mercedes, having to patiently kind of just be like, I have to make this 19-year-old realize it doesn't matter your intent, buddy. Like, it's still a penalty. Yeah. Sorry, man. Yep. One thing I didn't mention this. Yeah.
Can we talk about Aston Martin now that we've gotten out of the way of dealing with all the contenders and the guys at the top?
We'll get it. I have a Formula 1.5 take here that I think leads us into that. Formula 1.5 being the teams outside of Mercedes, Ferrari, to a lesser extent McLaren and Red Bull, even though McLaren and Red Bull haven't really had a race-winning car this year. They at least had a car that could be among the top. And that's certainly F1.5, or in, I guess in Aston Martin's case, 1.99999. We'll give him like a fraction above Formula 2 Junior Series.
To hear Alonso talk about that F2 engine and when he had the Honda at McLaren, a GP2 engine. I mean, he's got to feel even worse about it.
Yeah, I think he would be. I think he would just be so over the moon to have like a 2018 McLaren level one, because that car is terrible. But I will say, as a more broad take, and we can get into more in the specifics, I thought this would fit here. I didn't talk about this when we talked about the new regs, but one of the things that disappointed me about this new regulation set is that, early on in the last one, the ground effect era cars, I'm not saying that the teams I'm about to mention had an amazing, unbelievable start, but in the earliest races of the last regulation set, you had Haas have a strong start. Admittedly, that faded late, and they certainly weren't any good in the seasons following for the most part. And Alfa Romeo, with one of our favorite drivers here, Valtteri Bottas, who's back with Cadillac, that team faded pretty noticeably and had some of the worst reliability ever. But Bottas had, and Zhou Guanyu, his teammate, even a couple times, had some good races. And I feel like it's just been so much more stratified. Even Red Bull and McLaren, who are off the championship or the race winning level of cars, they're still so much better than the likes of Alpine, the likes of Red Bull's junior team, Visa Cash App Red Bull, if it's still calling itself that. So far ahead of Williams, Cadillac, and the worst of the worst team that I've seen since I've been following F1 that Bill led off with, Aston Martin. I mean, guys, do you remember it was the only time this season, without cheating, a non-Mercedes, Ferrari, McLaren, or Red Bull driver finished on the podium?
On the podium?
On the podium. No cheating.
Gasly finished on the podium.
Yep.
What was that? China? Canada?
It was not China or Canada. Bobby, can you complete it here? Do you remember which one Gasly was on the podium for?
For the steel.
For the steel.
Japan?
Monaco. Remember that was the one where
right.
they gave Hajar P3 initially, and then they were like afterwards.
That's right.
Afterwards, like I don't even remember the circumstances because guys, I can barely watch the Monaco race.
I was caught speeding in the Monaco pit lane. That's
that's right. Everyone was speeding that week.
That race was such a mess.
Yeah,
but yeah, he got it. The reason you don't remember him getting it, he got it on track. They penalized him 5 seconds or whatever, and then he was given third place like a week later
on an appeal
after the race an appeal. Because of the way that the FIA had drawn some line, and it was slightly like the shortest distance made everybody speed by 0.1 of a kilometer per hour or something.
Yes, that was one funny thing. Everyone was just getting a pit lane speed penalty. These guys like, I wasn't speeding. I had the limiter on.
Yeah.
Let's say Aston Martin. I think the worst. I'll let you talk about it more. But to introduce Aston Martin, who unbelievably has a point. They have 1 point. Like
that's what I was going to say.
This is the power of Fernando Alonso.
Yeah. I don't think they're going to get a second point, but they have 1 point from, I think, I can't remember which race this was. I should put it in my notes. Monaco. And I think it was from a penalty, right? And it would have been Sergio Perez getting it for Cadillac, but he had a penalty that knocked him down. So they got a bunch of cascading penalties, got Fernando up to 10th for 1 point.
Yeah, well, and so the thing I wanted to point out, Aston Martin tried to do, LeBron to the Heat, right? They tried to do the super team. They've got Newey, the greatest car designer maybe to walk the face of the earth. They've got Fernando Alonso, a two-time world champion, incredibly old at 44 for the sport. He's very old, but he's still got it. They've got brand new facilities, a brand new wind tunnel. They've got effective works treatment by being Honda's only team. And they've got all the money that a Canadian fashion magnate can bring, right? They've got, and Honda won a championship 2 years ago, right? So
they were Red Bull's engine provider.
They had such a great hand of cards to play, and they've just beefed it, man. Like, to say this car is a tractor is rude to farm equipment of all stripes, right? This thing is a boat anchor with a motor on it, and it is so bad. Honda, I'm told that Honda had some sort of problem with like a load of copper that they were doing windings with for their electric motor, but it caused such bad vibrations in the car that Alonso and Lance Stroll were at real risk of permanent nerve damage in their hands and could not finish a race forever. Like the first three or four races, the question was not who's going to win, who's going to get a podium. The question was, will the Aston actually finish? Will they complete the full race distance? And then the second question was, how many laps down will they be? And they have been just absolute dog water. And Newey has been hindered by Honda because he can't get the power he needs to keep the air flowing, to keep the aero working.
Yeah, but also Newey said we're finally listening to our drivers. Earlier or last week, he was like, "Yeah, we finally decided to listen to our drivers," and you're like, "Good job, Newey."
Yeah. Well, and they've got to have such massive cooling ducts too that he can't work around that, and he's got all kinds of problems having to, kind of being thrust into the team principal role. That's not where he should be. That's not where he thrives. I mean, he is, like I said, he's the brightest aero designer ever. Yeah. Right? I mean, I would say of the last century. Well, we've only been racing for 75 years, but for all of that, that is a guy who should be at his drafting table going nuts, not having to deal with, squabbles between drivers and whether these parts got to that location on time. That doesn't need to be where he is. But Alonso at 44, I mean, setting aside the sheer dumb luck at Monaco, having 6 retirements ahead of him, all the penalties, the late red flag and all of that, the fact that he still dragged this thing to 10th and got a point shows you that, yeah, there's still some world championship driver left in that guy. He's been amazing in this Junkyard Wars reject of a vehicle.
I'm going to jump in here and not take Aston Martin to the woodshed. I think their problem lies with Honda and everything. That car, no matter what you do aerodynamically, that car can't go anywhere because it doesn't have a good engine. Like, it's plain and simple. Yeah. So I don't put that at the foot of the Strolls or anything like that. Like, that's Honda's failure. I would say the biggest failure this season in terms of a team is simply Williams. That team has been an absolute disaster, and you see their point totals, and it's easy to go, like, they're scoring some points. They're 8th. They're ahead of Audi. They're ahead of Aston. They're ahead of Cadillac. They shut down their development, and they said, no, we're focusing on next year's car. And they have come in way overweight. That car is slow. It's not very good. They have 11 points on the season. They're behind Haas, for God's sake. If you're going to quit your development early, you need to be ahead of Red Bull's junior team at that point. That was why they got Carlos Sainz. That's why Alex Albon has stayed there, is because they believed in the process. They believed in what James Vowles was doing. And spoiler alert, it hasn't gone well. They have been the biggest disappointment for me this season of any team that we have seen. And you can be fooled by them being in 11th place. But my God, that car has been...
Ninth place.
Eighth place with 11 points.
Yeah.
Extraordinarily lucky to have those 11 points.
Yeah. And so they are just absolute dog water with what you expect. Did I expect them to be top 5? No. Like, I didn't expect them necessarily to jump up with Alpine. But you're telling me VCarb has 59 and you have 11 points and you shut down your development early to do that? That seems a little crazy to me.
No, that's a really good point. I hadn't really thought about them because they have flown under the radar. They've been
terrible.
Bad. Yeah. But they've been bad in a way that's not as visible just because of the troubles with Aston this year.
Yeah, they're 5 points ahead of Audi, but Audi has been, I think, cursed by reliability, which it shouldn't be a surprise. It's their first year fully running the team after kind of gradually transitioning into it. It's the first year with
a first
Audi
year
power
brand
unit.
New engine.
Yeah, exactly. But Williams is 8th out of 11. Not great when all of last year it was like, yeah, we'll wait till, and they had like a decent like Formula 1.5 car last year. And they were just like, oh yeah, wait till you see our 2026 car. And it is so much worse.
And you have the best engine.
They have the best, also the best driver pairing among the non-elite teams. Like Alex Albon and Carlos Sainz. No offense to the lineups of Cadillac, Aston Martin. Like, I know I'd put Fernando Alonso ahead of him, but I'm sorry, Bill. Like, Lance Stroll brings down the average there.
So far.
Out of the non-top 4 teams, by a good margin, in my opinion, Williams has the best one. So you can't blame the drivers as an input there either. And you can't just be like all of last year, oh, we're focusing on the future, though. That's what matters, the 2026 car. You can't tell people like, hey, we're about to go to I know only one of the three of us here is a parent, but like if you told your like we're about to go to an amusement park, we're about to like do the most fun thing you can imagine, you show up at the dentist's office, the person you're taking to the dentist's office, the child you're taking to the dentist's office is going to be pretty not thrilled about that situation, because you have been doing the opposite of expectations. Saying that's what Williams has been doing. They've been telling all of us who kind of want to see this team that has
we're
fallen
going to
on hard times.
We're going to go to the park. You show up at the vet and you go, damn.
Yeah. Hey, how about this? This season is actually going to be the opposite of what we expected. The car is going to look worse than maybe any Williams car has been since James Vowles took over here. And Formula One, like being a team principal and really changing the culture of a place, it should be the longest timeline thing in all of sports. This isn't like soccer managers where it's like, you got 3 months to figure this out, pal. Like this should be a long, many years process. But also, this isn't like year 1, year 2. Like this is the year we were supposed to be really looking like a serious midfield team, and Williams has looked like the opposite. Not saying they can't change it. Not saying, it's impossible that James Vowles, a very smart man who's very well regarded in Formula One, figures it out. But yeah, I'm fully with you, Bobby. Most disappointing team, Williams, even acknowledging there's a team in Aston Martin whose engine is actively electrocuting its drivers, or at least was in the past periodically.
Yeah. Now, I will say, last year we were all dogging on Alpine, and look where they've wound up this year. They did what Williams said they were going to do, and they got rid of that junk Renault engine, and they switched to Mercedes, and that has made all the difference. Gasly and Colapinto are up there just doing work, and very clearly at the top of the class for Formula 1.5 up there.
Yeah,
just want to give them their flowers because they've done.
Oh yeah, and there's a lot of criticism of. I mean, you know what he's a big boy. He could deal with it. Flavio Briatore, they're very scummy Euro guy.
Controversial.
Controversial. We'll just say a guy with a long controversy section in his Wikipedia page over there on the World Wide Web. But I think he's been vindicated by a lot of his moves. Like I know it was harsh to get rid of Jack Doohan, but Colapinto, who had shown promise as a cameo driver with Williams, I think he started to come good, even though I'm a little more critical of him than most. Gasly, as we expected, I think, should be a high-end midfield driver and has looked good. And like you said, Bill, just it sucks because these are people's jobs and livelihoods and stuff like that. But I think have to be ruthless and say, like, we either have to be willing to invest a lot more money into this engine operation, or we need to call it a day, because this kind of limbo we're in right now here just isn't working. And they're a lot better for now just being a Mercedes customer team, even if it is kind of weird that a car manufacturer, which we pointed out earlier, they're mostly in this, not just for the marketing, but also for the kind of the frontier testing kind of stuff that you do with these cars, to be like, yeah, we don't trust, as a car maker, our engine power the car, but for actual on-track results, indisputable that it was a strong net positive for them.
Yeah.
Can I talk about Red Bull for a second, guys? Even though they're not the most disappointing or the most hilarious
team.
And
I've got some thoughts about Caddy, but let's talk Red Bull, because they're an interesting place right now. It
is. I think it is a really, like, they're not the biggest disaster right now by any stretch, but I think it's a really existentially, in my opinion, they have their best years are now behind them. That's my take here. Is I looked at them in a real bigger picture sense. I'm not just saying that because their 2026 car isn't especially good. It's pretty clear, and we'll get to this more. This isn't the main focus of this topic, but I mean, elephant in the room. It looks like Max Verstappen and Red Bull are heading for a split. I mean, two of the lodestars for their incredibly successful run in F1. I mean, they've only existed as the branded Red Bull F1 team this century. Two of those guys are no longer here. A guy we've talked a fair amount about, their designer extraordinaire, Adrian Newey, probably the best to ever do the sport, and their longtime team principal, Christian Horner, is this guy who also probably has a healthy controversy section on his Wikipedia page. I mean, was very good at organizing and running an F1 team. And like those two guys, Horner and Newey, had their fiefdoms. And I think the most important thing people overlook was the ownership level there, that they had a pretty enviable setup with their, Red Bull, the energy drink company's founder, Dietrich Mateschitz. Mateschitz was an extraordinarily wealthy man, founder of Red Bull, as I said, who is indisputably the guy who had the final say of everything, but also didn't just have the final say because he had an easy, very clear-cut structure of, hey, who has the final say on stuff? It was Mateschitz, but also he maxed out basically whatever Horner knew he wanted within the rules and regulations, like the maximum amount of money they were allowed to get. Mateschitz made sure they got it, which I think is very unconventional.
Mateschitz understood that this is a technology platform for car makers, but for all of the teams, this is a marketing exercise. And if there's anything that Red Bull does perfectly
we want to win
across the board, it is marketing to their niche. Like they've started all of these weird little niche pro sports on the back of I'm Red Bull and I want to because I know that this is going to sell more cans of energy drinks. And I mean, when Mateschitz was around, you're right, he had the final say, but he also had the money to back it up. And when the king died and the warlords came to fight, you really had the three camps, right? You had the Austrians, you had the Thai ownership piece still, and then you had Helmut Marko, who was the head of their driver development, and he's left now too. Horner's gone, Marco's gone, Mateschitz is gone, Newey is gone. All four of their heads of state are gone. Everybody that brought Max up, everybody that kept that car to Max's liking, gone. And I think you're right. I think Max was always going to run the course at some point. I feel like 10 or 11 years is a pretty solid run, but I think you're right. I think he's on his way out. I think Mekies, though, Lauren Mekies, has been doing a really good job filling in for Horner. I think he's done a good job of riding that ship as best as possible. And I think they're cruising towards sort of staying in that P3, P4 range for a while. And I think they're not going to hit that peak, the Vettel, Verstappen peaks again.
So
they're not going to go away. I
don't know how spicy this is, guys, but I think this is the spiciest take I have here. I think Red Bull has a better chance of liquidating their ownership stake in this team than they do winning another double constructors driver championship in the next. I think there's a better chance that in the next 15 years, you see Red Bull gradually unwind their involvement in this. Then I'm not saying I'm saying there's a better chance of that happening than them doing a double. I could see maybe, hey, they make things up with Verstappen. He stays in there, maybe has a good season. I just don't see them. I don't see them having another season like the ones Vettel had from 2010 to 2013, or like Verstappen had individually winning the drivers' championship for several years there, and the team winning the constructors a couple times in there this decade as well. I just, you can't put the genie back in the bottle to create the conditions that existed at this team that allowed for the Vettel and Verstappen eras. There needs to be an autocratic structure here in terms of who gets reported to. It's I know it's gonna sound crazy, guys. It's too much democracy right now. It's too many cooks in the kitchen. It's too many people with divergent opinions here trying to be the person. I agree with you, but I think Mekies, their current team head, is doing as well as you can consider, but they've had so much brain drain. They have so much muddled structure at the top that I just don't think you can ever get the conditions back that produced Red Bull's best eras in the first place. And I think that creates an uncomfortable question at the top of Red Bull's corporate structure. Is the insane amount of money we put into this sport worth it from a marketing standpoint if we're no longer one of the best teams in it? I don't think they're going to get there in a couple of years, because I think it still is. They still get incredible marketing bump. They're still not a bad car. But if this thing gets worse, if the economic conditions get worse, I really do think that before... I think they're gonna at some point have to ask themselves hard questions. Bob, you don't sound like you agree with me.
I don't, and the reason why I don't, I understand what you're saying, and winning a double is hard. I'm sure people said the exact same thing when Vettel stopped winning his titles.
But they still had Newey and Horner.
But
Dietrich.
But here's the other thing: is if you are looking to divest, you don't create your own engine program. In part, if Red Bull's looking to get out, they become a customer for somebody. Like I just don't see. I think you kind of reach the point where you spend so much that it's their main marketing arm now. It is they have that engine program. I almost think that engine program makes it so expensive to buy into that I don't know what that sale looks like. Like if we're talking, they may not win a title for a long time or something like that. Like, yeah, I could see that. But I don't see. I think the part where I push back on your spicy take here, Sam, is that Red Bull will divest and sell it off, because I think if there was any idea that they would do that, they wouldn't have invested in this engine program and wouldn't have branded it the way that they did.
I mean, are we sure the wheels of that engine program weren't in motion though before Dieter Mateschitz died, and it wasn't like, oh, we like they've already started it, we're gonna see this thing through, like. I'm not saying it's going to happen in 5 years. I'm saying I think there's going to be a time when they eventually reach that before they're a double championship winning team again.
I mean, if you don't see it happening in 5 years, maybe you don't see them winning in 5 years. I could see them winning in 5 years, right? Like I wouldn't bet my money on it, but I also wouldn't bet my money on the Red Bull divesting. I think if Red Bull's going to divest, it's going to be the next engine regs when they decide they don't want to do it, and there's no clue on when the next engine regs would be. So it's not that I don't think that they're going to
2030.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there are. Yeah, so 5 years.
We don't know what they are, but we know they'll
2028. Yeah. 2028.
New engines.
That's a modification. No, they're modifying.
Yeah,
they're modifying the ratio,
but
and then 2030, 31. That's when we get the fully.
But yeah, so I don't see them divesting. As I see what they've invested into the engine program and all of the money that they've spent is like the sunk cost fallacy hitting them more so than I think. Like, could I see them winning in 10 years? Yes. Right. Like 5 years. Who knows? You just said 2030 is the next engine regs. Anything can happen with engine regs. We've seen it before. We've seen it 100 times. I don't see them with the money that they've spent on that engine program that they are going to suddenly drop out in the next 5 years, 6 years, something like that.
All right. I hear what you're saying. But having brought in Ford, right? And Ford went back and forth. Ford has had when Red Bull came in, they bought a Jaguar team that was Ford's entry, right? So Ford has had their foot in the door again. I think that Red Bull, if they want out, they've got a ready-made buyer. I think they've got a buyer that's got resources to do that, to carry a whole team.
But I think if Ford wanted in, Ford would have just got in.
No, you saw how hard Caddy had to work. You saw how hard Audi had to work. I mean, Porsche wanted to be in with Audi and have two teams for the Volkswagen group, and they couldn't get it together. FIA and Formula One management wanted Porsche, and they couldn't make it work. So at this point,
well, they kind of did when they got Audi, right? Like that's
that's why I'm saying Porsche. Audi got in, Porsche didn't.
Yeah, but that's the same company. It's all.
Well, they were going to have two entries.
Okay.
They were going to have the Audi entry and the Porsche entry for the Volkswagen group.
Right.
And Porsche couldn't get in. Audi got in because they bought a team. Porsche was going to bring a new team, like Caddy did. Right. But if Red Bull wants out, I think they could sell to Ford. I think Ford would eat that up. You got an opportunity to go head to head in the top racing series in the world against your rival in GM with Caddy. Yeah.
But again, they could have just done it, right? Like if we're gonna say we think Ford, it's gonna cost you like if they're excited to go against Caddy, like they could have just gone against Caddy, like and had the engine
right.
program.
No,
right.
So I know. I know that they could have, but it was hard enough to get into the sport if they wanted in and Red Bull won it out, that would be the right time and the right match. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that's how Red Bull would divest.
But I think the idea that Ford would be itching to get into Formula One, and it would be this great thing for Ford. Like, if Ford wanted in and they thought it was worth their money, they'd have gotten in already. Like, they could have easily have gotten in.
They got out to let Red Bull in.
They weren't good.
Right.
But like,
I mean, the Jaguar was garbage.
But you can also say like the Volkswagen Group may have been in before. Like, they could have gotten in if they wanted to. And buying the established Red Bull team, I don't think is necessarily the way you do that automatically. Like, I would also see what you're saying.
Be clear. I think it is more likely. I'm not saying it is 100% certainty.
Right.
I think if I'm assigning probabilities here, I would give, just again using these numbers purely for example, I'd give Red Bull in 15 years, thinking about just divesting from the sport, like a 30% chance, and I'd give them winning another double a 20% chance.
Yeah.
Again, just because
I don't think they've got another double on
organizationally, they had so many all-time good people. Like, they don't have an Adrian Newey there. I'm sure they got designers who know more about Formula One than I could ever fathom in my lives. Good people. They don't have Adrian Newey. They're not going to have Max Verstappen. Like, Isaac Hajar, I talked about how much I love him. I think he's a driver who's very much outperformed his expectations. I'm sorry, I don't think he's a future world champion. I think he's a future good driver who can grab a podium sometimes. Yeah.
I don't think they have anybody in the stable. When Marco left, who had been head of their driver development program, yeah,
people
he was
people swear by that Bulgarian junior in F2. So maybe that's what the guy who comes in here and they have a good reg cycle next time out. I just don't see it.
They had so many hits, like back to back to back. They had Vettel, they had Ricardo, they had Sainz.
Here's my argument though, is yes, we could talk all we want to about that, right? We can talk about their history and that they don't have the guys. Guys, McLaren was ass. Like, 5 years ago, McLaren was ass. In 2021, 2022, they were competing with Alpine to maybe finish 4th or 5th, like maybe. And then they won the double last year. Like, and they were a customer car. So like, they have Zach Brown leading the charge there. Like, you can find people. They didn't like. Yes, they didn't, but McLaren didn't have Adrian Newey last year, and they won a title. Like, yes, they don't have the people that are as good as that they had at their peak. But McLaren was doo-doo butt. Like, when I first started watching, they got beat by Alpine, and they won a title 4 years later. They won the championship and pulled the double 4 years later. To say that you can't magically make a turnaround because of you lost all these people. They have Zach Brown leading them in McLaren, okay? Zach Brown.
The difference with McLaren, and then we can move on because I'm sure we've got other things to talk about. But
yes,
the difference with McLaren is the history. McLaren's whole thing is we are a car company, right? They sell sports cars. They sell things that go fast. Red Bull has other marketing opportunities elsewhere. They got into this for the marketing. So I'm not saying that they're not going to turn it around.
You've missed you've missed my argument. The argument was I don't think Red Bull gets out in Sam said 15 years. I think in the next 15 years, right? I think in the next 15 years, Red Bull has a pretty good shot at winning a double. Because, and my example of that is McLaren was doo-doo butt 4 years ago and won a title. Like,
but McLaren put the resources back in because that's their legacy. Red Bull's legacy is drinks.
What's Red Bull's legacy in F1 is being one of the top 4 teams. When has McLaren fallen when has Red Bull fallen below where McLaren was when we when I started watching in 2022?
I mean, let's see what happens when Max Verstappen leaves.
It could.
The early years with the Honda engines that were just grenades were terrible. The Red Bull was terrible.
Yes, but they were still one of the better teams. They were better than Williams. They were a top 4 or 5 team, right? Like, yes, I understand what you guys are saying is that they lost people. I don't think Red Bull divests because Red Bull has put a lot of money into it. It's their number one marketing arm, and suddenly you're going to tell me they're not going to win for 15 years, and they're going to divest. I just don't see them not winning a double in 15 years. Like, crazier things have happened in Formula.
We have to move on, but I'll say, Bobby, if I'm right in 2039, you're getting me a nice bottle of whiskey, not like a deal, a crazy one, but like
you have a deal.
You give me a reasonably priced but still very high quality whiskey bottle. If I'm right on this one,
on the 10th version of this pod, yeah, we'll have that as our
Bobby American team corner here. I want you to tell us, like, we're going to talk a little bit about Haas, a little bit about Caddy, like what's been shaking with the two American teams.
Yeah, man. Haas is still Haas has gotten a lot better once they got rid of Gunther Steiner, who is a great fun guy to watch on Drive to Survive, but overall just not a very good team principal. It turns out.
Shocker. The boring engineer who doesn't give the funny quotes is actually a much better running an F1 team than the guy who's a good Drive to Survive personality.
Yeah, so they've looked solid. They are currently 7th in with 21 points. They are the leader of those back markers right there in 7th. Next up is going to be the Racing Bulls team, which is at 59 points. So they're way off the pace there, but they're kind of in their own tier here. They have almost double the amount of points that Williams does, and we talked about Williams earlier. Haas has kind of become a boring team. I know they're the American team, but it doesn't seem like they always embrace it. And now that we have what feels like a true American team in Cadillac, they've kind of lost that. So they've kind of become a little bit of the boring team that just goes out and runs and has decent performances from time to time. And then you do have the newest U.S. team in Cadillac. General Motors has bought in, and they have branded their team as the Cadillac team. They do have Checo Perez, so they are getting some money, that Mexican sponsorship money that you had mentioned, Sam. Checo's looked decent at times. And then they also have guy who's just kind of fun to follow, just a character in Valtteri Bottas. He's just a fun character. He did a calendar a couple of years ago for, I want to say it was prostate cancer, where people were calling him like bot ass, and so he did.
It's because he posed for this picture after doing one of his insane 100-mile mountain bike sort of things. He posed this picture being a European guy with no shame, with his ass out, just laying in a cold river after probably biking through 100 miles of gravel. Yeah. And the picture went viral. And so he made a calendar of pictures like that for charity. I believe it was prostate cancer, like you said.
Cadillac doesn't have any points. You kind of expect it. I would say
Rookie
that
season, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would make the argument, and we talked about them earlier. They got lucky with that point. I would say Cadillac has generally looked better than Aston Martin this year, even as a rookie team. 100%. And that's something certainly to hang your hat on if you are Cadillac. I wouldn't expect a ton out of Cadillac this year, but it's been fun just to kind of watch them. You want to see them take the baby steps. We talked about this with on the regular pod when we talk about the women's golf team, right? Like, what's the next step to make some history? And you want to see Cadillac qualify for Q2, like make it to the next section of qualifying. Yes, you'll be one of the top 15 teams. You may be number 15, but I want to see one of them make it one race. They have solid drivers, none that you would say are world class or anything like. I mean, obviously they're world class because they're one of the top 20.
At one point, both of their drivers took number 2 in the Drivers' Championship.
They were also in the best car of their season.
They still got to P2, baby.
Yes.
I'm just saying they've got plenty of experience. They've got great drivers. Go on anyway.
So which team do you think they would rather have, Bottas or Checo?
Do you want me to say if Caddy would prefer to have one of the two?
No. I'm saying give me a team.
Which other team would want one of those two?
Yeah, what other team would want one of those two?
Oh, I mean,
well, no, because as I say, if Alonso's like, I can't take any more of this.
Yeah, maybe they go with that.
Yeah.
Stroll.
Do you think there's any hard feelings from Stroll?
Look,
from
I mean,
Stroll
if
Perez.
Gasly leaves Alpine, they could take either one of them and be happy.
What I'm saying is which team would replace one of their drivers with one of those two guys?
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah, probably not.
So like,
That's
yes,
fair.
they're so when I say they're
Maybe
not the
Checo,
world-class-
maybe like Checo and Williams or something like that. If Williams is like,
Maybe.
hey, it'd be
No,
nice-
would you rather have
Adrian
Carlos or-
Williams, he has history.
Yeah,
But I mean, even if you take that out, just pure driving skill, I'd rather have Albon. I'd rather have Sainz.
Oh,
than
yeah,
either one
for
of those.
sure.
So,
Like, yeah.
so
Yeah.
when I say that, that's what I'm.
I wouldn't
talking
replace
about
any
is,
of those
like,
guys. Yeah,
they're world class drivers but I would make the argument that they have the 10th best driver lineup behind Aston, and I don't know if I would take. Yes, you'd replace Lance Stroll with any of those two guys, but
his dad owns the team, so
so that's
you
not
have to-
happening.
yeah.
For
But
him
like,
to have a seat.
but like at the end of the day, you don't have the best drivers on the grid. They were good at one point, and yes, to your point, Bill, they got P2. But at the end of the day, like they wouldn't go on any other team. But they're a lot of fun to watch. And I'm not saying that if you replace them with, Lewis Hamilton, that they're suddenly P5. Like that's certainly not happening. But I definitely think that Cadillac is a lot of fun to watch this year.
Yeah, I'd even say that they're ahead of schedule. They were starting multiple seconds behind the Astons at the beginning of the year, and
it's a from scratch team. So yeah,
exactly. They're a brand new rookie team. They had to fight for years to even get a spot on the grid, and now they're far better. Like yes, their point standings, don't prove it, but they are a better team than Aston. They have a faster car than Aston. They have better driver car pairings than Aston, I'd say, and I think that the improvements are coming faster than I expected with Caddy. And next year, if Colton Herta can get his super license points, I think that they ask one of those two to step aside. I think it's going to be Valtteri gets asked to step aside, and they make him the reserve driver and bring up Colton Herta. We have our first American in the sport since Alexander Rossi back in like 2012 or 13, and even then, oh no, I take it back.
Forgot Logan Sargent, buddy.
Hey, forgettable, but
yeah,
we'll have an American racing for an American team, and I think they're doing gangbusters for everything that comes with being a brand new team, and not even like Haas just basically bought the Marussia outfit, and truly Gene Haas rolled in and said, "I will take the factory, I will take half the engineers, give me all their equipment, and we're going to start this back up." So they had a huge leg up. Caddy built everything from scratch.
Yeah.
And if there's anything more American being a scrappy upstart team built from scratch, built on spite and good old American stubbornness, I don't know, man. They feel very CUSA Cougs coded to me. Just give them a chance. They can shock the world.
So to keep this, I was gonna say, as we're running a little long as we are wont to do, doing this awesome episode, as I did my favorite race this year, I kind of came to the conclusion that you could only really pick two races for this. But I want to ask you this, Bobby. I'll ask you first, and then Bill. I think, in my opinion, you can't pick anything but either the Canadian Grand Prix or Silverstone, the British Grand Prix, as your favorite. I think those are pretty far and away the two best races this season. Is one of those your favorite race this season? And if so, what is it? You disagree with my assertion here?
I can see how you got there. I always love Austria. I thought that was a pretty solid race. You look at the top three on the poll, all finished within of the podium, all finished within 2 seconds of each other. So the top three finishes within two seconds of each other. I thought the midfield was pretty interesting there for a little bit, with Piastri and Hamilton and Hadjar kind of going at it a little bit there. You did get to see Max jump into P2. I thought he raced really well. I thought there was some drama in other places. You had 4 DNFs, which can cause a little chaos in a race at times. So yeah, I enjoyed Austria, but I definitely see how you got to your 2, Sam.
Bill, same question for you.
My only problem with Silverstone was the ending this year, right? Before lap, what was it, 50, 49, 48, something like that. Great race. Ending under what should have been, red flag and a restart, but they turned it into a safety car that will you, won't you. I mean, that was such a letdown that it kind of colored the whole race for me. In Austria is always a great race. I have really begun to enjoy Austria. Y'all know Monaco used to be my favorite race, just for purely sentimental reasons. My daughter was born the day before Monaco in 2015, and we sat there. She was a day old. We watched it. I mean, that's always going to be special. But no, this year I think one of my top races, and not because it was great all the way down to the wire. Barcelona, seeing Hamilton get his maiden victory at Ferrari, something I know he's dreamed of his entire life, seeing him breathe life back into that team, and they had some good on track action early on, and then I want to say around like lap 30, 35, there were some good battles going. I really enjoyed Barcelona. It was just a fun, historic moment, just like you were talking about women's golf, finding that next step, and Hamilton getting his maiden win with his dream team was right there for me.
Canadian Grand Prix was my favorite, as I kind of tipped my hand that it would be for this one. Though I think you guys have both made a good case for your answers here. I think Canada, to me, brought back the memories of the on-track fighting between Verstappen and Hamilton that we used to get. Almost always gives you the variable weather, which I think is usually one of those ingredients for a good race. You put that track and the weird Montreal weather together, in that time of year. You got the good wheel-to-wheel action. You got teams' tire strategy kind of thrown in there, which unfortunately not McLaren's finest hour there. And ended up with Alex Albon getting unfortunately yeeted by Oscar Piastri, who locked up his tires on that one. But I mean, just seeing Verstappen and Hamilton fighting again, and I think that's generally a race that brings the goods. That's why it was my top pick here. So
not a bad choice.
Bill, what race in the remaining calendar are you most looking forward to?
All right. So aside from the U.S. Grand Prix at Circuit of the Americas, which I'm looking forward to enjoying with the two of you fine gentlemen.
Yes, sir.
I am really looking forward to Baku. Baku in Azerbaijan really it makes good on the promises that Monaco doesn't for me. It's got some huge straights. It's got some twisty technical stuff. It's got plenty of overtaking opportunities. It's got lots of historical drama. That's that it's not an old track, but boy has it had some good fights and consistently. So I'm really looking forward to Baku. I'm also very excited to see if the Mad Ring is any good. The new track in Madrid.
Might have something on that here in a little bit.
Oh,
Bobby.
Yeah, for me, I'm going to go with Brazil. Just a race I generally enjoy.
Good choice, actually.
I think it's a fun track to just watch races on. I am curious what the new regs are going to do with some of these longer straights that they have. That kind of one of the really cool things is coming out of that final turn, you kind of go downhill, and there's a lot of straight there. What happens with that? And the battery.
I hadn't thought about that for Baku. That's a good point.
How did the batteries handle that? Yeah, Baku is probably my favorite track to watch races at, with the castle and everything. I just think it's a really cool. In terms of a track, I think it's kind of weird because you go square, straight, circle, straight, square, straight, circle, straight. But Brazil coming out of that final turn, I think that's a really cool. I think it's a cool look. The drivers talk about how great of a track it is. We haven't seen a ton of races there since I started watching in 2020, because they just didn't race there for a while. But that one's usually a fun track to watch a race at.
That's a really good call. Interlagos is a great track. Yeah.
Yeah, I should have given that more consideration, but I like the answer. I'm going with Madrid just because it's a new track. Seems like it has decent potential too, just based on the layout of the thing. Based on, I think 22 turns in total. You have the long straight between turns 3 and 4. Lots of turns after, including the thing that maybe excites me the most. You have that downhill section between turns 9 and 11, which smarter people than me seem to think will have a lot of potential for overtaking there. I think I've seen actually get the most digital ink is turn 12. They call it La Monumental. Blind exit corner that has the absolute maximum banking allowed, 24% by the FIA. If nothing else, I think we'll see some interesting stuff happen in the race there. Basically, I'm always curious about new tracks, and this one seems to have a bit more potential than some of the more obvious, we'll say cash grabby recent new tracks that F1 started racing at, though they did, I think, stumble kind of ass backwards into a pretty decent one in Vegas, it has to be said. So, but I would say the Madrid ring, and I like that we all landed on 3 different tracks here that I think have a lot of potential, not including U.S. Grand Prix, which we'll all be at, and is generally one of the more exciting ones year in, year out.
Yeah, those S's in turn 1, just great. Sector 1 is such a good complex.
I mean, you just see like a purpose-built track, obviously, and not surprisingly being superior to the street track. Or we'll use street track not in quotes for Vegas because, like it or not, it genuinely is a street track that utilizes like Las Vegas Boulevard and Koval and Harmon and actual streets in Vegas. In Miami's case, we'll use heavy air quotes because it's the fucking Dolphin Stadium parking lot, and it's gotten a little better. It's gotten a little more watchable, but it is still
a couple corners this year, and it's been better. Yeah,
it's the 3rd best U.S. race, and it's 3rd by a wide margin. Before we go, we'll talk a little F1 silly season, the swapping of drivers and teams on and off the Formula One grid. Since generally, if you know the show, I love surprising Bobby specifically with questions. I love putting stuff in there that Bobby hasn't specifically prepared for him. So, Bill, I'm giving you the pleasure of that this week as well. I'm going to give you guys both. I told you guys both I have surprise questions here. I will obviously, in the sake of fairness, I will be the last one to answer both these. So I will, because this is you have to pick something, but you can't pick whatever the first person did kind of question here. Okay. So I will give myself the biggest handicap, the biggest disadvantage. Bobby, I'll ask you first here. It's your first gut reaction question that we'll kick around here. Who's the 2026 driver you think will not be on the grid with any team when we return here in about 2 years to record our next biennial Formula One podcast? He will not be with his team and will not be on the grid with anyone.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's one obvious answer, and it feels like cheating to take it.
No, I mean that's why you're the first pick, and that's why Bill's getting the first pick in the next question.
I mean, if you're telling me I got to do it, I'm taking Fernando Alonso. He's already kind of mentioned some things that he said because we're saying 2 years. I'm not saying necessarily next year, but he's definitely kind of said some things that lean towards. I'm pretty excited to. I'll always be here at Aston Martin, but not necessarily as a driver. He just signed like that big contract with him, but it wasn't necessarily to be a driver. It was a lifetime contract to just be associated with Aston Martin. And so I don't see him racing for Aston Martin. I think a retirement is going to happen there.
The end of this year?
This can be
because he said 2 years from now.
I was gonna say, for the sake of this question, he can retire next year. This is 2020.
I do think I think, there's rumors going around now that he's making a decision during the summer break right now. So I wouldn't be surprised if he retires after this year, especially this shit card that he's been in. Like, if you're him, you're just going, yeah, screw this, man. Give this.
I've got a new kid. I'm out.
Next year. Yeah, give this to Checo next year. So yeah, that's kind of my cheating answer. Bill, who you got?
So you said this is a cheating answer, and the one I thought was like, oh shit, he's going to take my answer, and that's Esteban Ocon. I think he's gone.
First one on my board too.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that.
I mean, he is not vibing with Komatsu. He's not vibing with the car it has. He's always been pretty mid. That's why he is at Haas instead of moving up anywhere. But I mean, the other way I see this is when he leaves, there's a shot for Yuki to join in there. You've got Yuki in a Toyota Gazoo backed car with Ayao Komatsu at team principal. Suddenly Japan's got a team, baby. Like, I think that, yeah, it's still an American investor. It's still an American flag team, but that's Japanese all the way through. I think it's going to be Ocon that leaves. And I think that you're right that Alonso's probably gone too. Again, shit car, new kid, 44. I mean, he's been in it longer than anybody else ever has, right? So, but I think Ocon is more likely just because nobody at Haas is happy that he's there, including him.
You know, we'll put aside the mid comment because we are talking about a mid racer who just happened to win a Grand Prix in the last 5 years. But
can you tell who Sam's favorite driver is? Can everyone?
No, he's not. No, not my favorite driver. We'll say I am more of an Esteban Ocon respecter than the median F1 fan. But he's probably not even
Gasly has a win in the last 5 years too. What's your point?
Yeah, Gasly's not mid either.
Gasly's way better than Ocon. I mean, same team, okay. and Ocon couldn't touch him.
Anyway, I will leave it aside because I had Ocon first too, but for all the reasons that you said, like it's not vibing with this team, and I'm not sure who's going to be the other team that puts him in their seat.
Could you see him going to Caddy though, like Cadillac?
No, Colton Herta. Colton Herta and
they've got Guan Yu.
Yeah, and Guan
they
Yu.
do have
I was
Guan Yu.
that's I was gonna say, if you're gonna put, again, I think Ocon would deserve it more than Zhou Guan Yu, but also it would be kind of funny to have a quasi Chinese pay driver in the the quote unquote American team, but also would not be remotely unprecedented in F1. But again, I won't take an issue with it because Ocon was my first one. I would have been floored if it got to my pick here and Ocon was going to be still on the board. I thought that was going to be your pick, honestly, Bobby, even though you're not as big of a...
I thought Bobby was going to say Ocon too.
I'm going with Valtteri Bottas. I wish it wasn't the case, guys, but I mean, he's clearly the second best. I mean, clearly the second best driver. I don't think you can hold him specifically to blame. Like, it's a first year, like a true first year team. So you can't really expect much there. I would still say he's probably been the second best driver. And I think they do genuinely want Colton Herta, who is an American junior. So if it doesn't happen at the end of this season, I think it's surely going to happen at the end of next season, which was the scope of this question. So yeah, I think Bottas, is my pick here, not being able to pick either of the guys. You guys went with, all right, Bill, you get first crack at this next one. Gut reaction question number 2. Who is the 2026 driver who will be on the grid, but with a different team than the one he is with now when we record our next summer podcast during the 2028 season?
Ooh. On the grid with a different team. Okay. Yes.
Multiple right answers. That's what I like about this one is that you could go so many different directions here.
All right. I'm just going to pull the pin on this one. I think it's Max. I don't know where he ends up. I know there's a lot of talk with the Oscar Max seat swap. There's potential for Max to wind up at Mercedes after all. Russell's only on contract until through the end of this season, I believe. And I know that contracts aren't worth the paper they're written on in F1. There's so many outs and exceptions and all this, but it's just money that's stopping these things from happening, and nobody's shown any restraint there before. So I think that with Max's clause on, hey, if I'm not in the top 2 by the summer break, I can break my contract. I think he wants out. He's been talking, and his agent has been talking with other teams. He's been seen talking with Helmut Marko, presumably looking for guidance on what to do next. I don't think he's going to be any good at McLaren. Like, he's not going to be a good fit for McLaren. He's not going to be a good fit alongside Lando. But I had to, gun to my head, I could see him at Mercedes in 2027 or 2028. Toto's been wanting him since he was in F3. And then he'd have his look. They promoted Kimi after kind of a meh season in F2, and Max came straight from F3 into F1. Never even took a turn at the wheel in F2. So I mean, Toto's been kicking himself not getting Max before. So I think it's Max not going to be with the same team next year.
Bobby.
Yeah, for me, the answer is Ollie Behrman. I think Ollie Behrman he's a Ferrari contracted driver. I don't know how many more years Lewis is going to do this, or with if that does drop with Max going to Mercedes or McLaren or something like that. It throws everything into you no longer know what's going to happen, right? That's the equivalent of Lewis going to Ferrari, and suddenly you're looking around going, what in the world's going on here? I could see Lewis retiring in the next couple of years. Not this year. I think maybe after next year, especially if they figure that Ferrari out and he wins the title. I think if he gets 8, he's done. But I think Ollie's going to find his way into one of the top 4 teams, right? Let's say Max does move on to Mercedes and George is trying to find a seat. It's not guaranteed that Red Bull would automatically sign Max Verstappen, right? You could see them wanting Ollie Behrman over that. And does Ollie want to go and get into one of the top 4 teams? I think Ollie's outperformed that Haas car. In fact, he's 15 points ahead of Esteban Ocon. So I think Ollie's going to make his way up to one of the top 4 teams. I could see Ollie going somewhere like Alpine if they figure their stuff out, right? And going there. I think Alpine or Ollie's going to be the guy who is the next young guy who takes a step up into one of the major teams.
Second question in a row, by the way, my top pick has been taken by the guy picking directly before me, Ocon and Bill in the last one, and Bobby. I had Behrman first for exactly the same reasons that you said. He's, no offense, Haas. This guy's too good for Haas. This guy clearly is. This guy is, and I know I just slandered this guy earlier in this podcast. This guy is Charles Leclerc at Sauber. This guy is insert name of good
George Russell
at Williams. This guy is ticketed for bigger and better things than your lower in the field team. Like, again, no offense to the lower in the field team. Like, he's going to be, if you're not Ferraris, like there's a decent chance Ferraris, he's going to be some team near the top of the grids, promising young driver. I'm going to say, for similar reasons, I don't feel as strongly about it, hence why it wasn't my first possible pick here, Arvid Lindblad. I think he really is. Like, I think, especially with Max Verstappen, I think we all agree to some extent. I don't think he's going to be very long for Red Bull. Lindblad has been, and I know there's a good F2 prospect behind him, so I know he's not guaranteed and won't be as Red Bull has always been, even without all the people we talked about earlier. They're always going to have a situation where, hey, like, you're feeling some pressure. I could see a Hajar Lindblad in the big team seat in the future. And then you could do worse. Obviously, you'd prefer to have Max Verstappen 100 times out of 100, but 2 guys who were among the best young prospects in the sport, I think, coming up, and a homegrown guy too. Like, I know he's been worse than Liam Lawson this year, but also just there's a huge gap between how many races Liam Lawson has run in the sport and Arvid Lindblad, not to mention the age difference. Not that Lawson's an older guy, but several years older than Lindblad as well, who I think who was born the same year as the 3 of us became friends.
Yeah.
It's not great.
We get it.
I mean, as I say, hey, we've made it this many years. We could be proud of that. So I think I'm pretty confident next time we do a podcast, Arvid Lindblad will be in a bigger seat in the Red Bull junior team that he is in right now. If it maybe under pressure from the Bulgarian F2 driver, that I think is a pretty strong possibility to be on the grid next season. But Lindblad, I didn't feel exactly as confident as it in Behrman, but I was there for a lot of the same reasons. He was my choice here. So with Bobby taking Behrman, I'm going Lindblad here.
I have to say that when you posed this question, the reason I paused about currently on the grid with another team before I said Max, I could even see Max retiring and saying, all right, I'm done with F1. I'm going to go drive WEC. I'm going to go drive Rally. I'm going to go drive any other series I want, because he's achieved everything he can in F1. He seems kind of bored with the whole thing. He seems, but that could change.
You can shake your head. You can shake your head.
I
Molly,
disagree completely
that
he's going to leave F1.
The guy's an absolute freak about race. Like the guy was doing
he is.
like
He's not
he
gonna leave
loves
F1.
other series of racing. Like he doesn't like. He loves his family and stuff like that. But it's his family and it's racing. He's not like going to fashion shows. He's not
Agreed.
like, oh, I understand this.
100%.
I like racing cars, virtual and real.
The man gets out of the
That's
F1
why
car.
I do not think he will retire from F1.
And
I think that is
rig.
I think that is a bargaining tool that he uses to be able to do whatever he wants to do, and he's one of those guys who could go do that, right? And so he just tells everybody, well, I could go leave. I could just go over to WEC. I could do that. And he never does. He just kind of uses it as a way to kind of get his way. Not saying that he doesn't enjoy those things, but I think Max knows that where all of his money is going to be in F1. He can make a stupid amount of money in F1. He can race.
He's made a stupid amount of money.
Yes,
he certainly has.
But when have you ever heard an athlete go, "Oh man, I've made a ton of money"?
He's the kind of freak that would. 99 times out of 100, I agree with you. He is the absolute kind of freak that would. I agree that it's less likely
is Michael
that
Jordan.
Yeah.
This is I'm blanking. Went to the Mariners. Basketball went to the Mariners.
That's going to be tough that a basketball player went to the Mariners, because the Mariners are definitely.
I think you're thinking Michael Jordan, who played minor league baseball with the White Sox. I think you're thinking of the Birmingham.
Was it the White
Barons.
Sox org? I thought he was with the Mariners org. Anyway,
No, he played for their minor league team in Birmingham.
Right. This is.
And then what did he do?
He went back.
He wasn't.
He came back.
Yeah.
He came back.
My point is, Max could leave and be perfectly capable in any other series he wants. As we mentioned before, he is the best driver on the face of the earth in any car you put him in.
I think the threat is more real from him.
All you said is correct, that he could absolutely go compete in any car. He showed it at the 24 hours today. Literally, Formula One changed the date of Monaco so that he could go race in the 24 hours of Le Mans. He uses it to get what he wants. His threatening to leave. I don't think he's actually going to leave. He's going to make a metric shit ton of money driving F1. He can pick whatever team he wants to, and he can do that for the next 10 years. And he's sick in the head, like you guys said. He cares about it. He wants to be known as the best of all time.
Then why would you try and go be the best of all time in multiple series?
Because the one you want to be the best of all time in, no matter, would you rather be the best of all time?
Alonso left and came back.
What's that?
It's not apples to apples, but he left and came. Alonso left and did some other like IndyCar and WEC, and he came back. Like I can see Max Verstappen doing that.
Maybe, yeah.
I mean, in my mind, you've won the titles in F1. You could go win titles in WEC. You could then go win titles in IndyCar, or
but you could win 6 titles in Formula One.
But then you can look up at people and go, yeah, I've got rings. And then everyone goes,
we don't give a shit that you won in WEC. Like nobody cares.
But he doesn't care about. He does not care about what people think.
That's not his.
He doesn't.
He absolutely does. He absolutely.
Oh, of course he cares, but
it's not even what others think. It's about his legacy. And he was bred to be an F1 driver. It's been his whole life.
Sure. But what if he wants to do something for himself and not for his dad for once?
When has he ever shown that he wants to do something other than try to make his dad happy? Never.
That's fair. That's fair.
Fine.
He can do all those things that you're talking about while still being a Formula One driver. He can do them all. He can go be a WEC driver, and he can go do the most prestigious races. He can go do. You think right now, if he said I want to do an Indy 500, he couldn't go do an Indy 500?
Oh no, he
If
absolutely
he wanted
could.
to go win a 24 hours of Daytona, he wouldn't be able to go drive. If he didn't, again, they moved the schedule for him. He's not retiring. He's not retiring. It's just a threat he can use to get what he wants. But Max will not retire from Formula One before he is considered the greatest driver of all time.
You owe Bill at least a nice 6-pack of beer but in the next 2 years.
I will bet more than a 6-pack of beer.
I didn't want to commit you to more than that.
There is no way that Max retires in the next 2 years.
That's fine. I mean, I'm not saying it's like necessarily likely. I'm just saying that I could see him saying, "I'm done."
As always, guys, it's run long. It's been wild. It's been a lot of Formula One talk. Bobby, you're officially out of any liquids to drink, and
I'm done. I'm done, brother. I'm done.
Take us home.
I'm done. All right. Well, that is it for this very long episode of the Scott Holman Podcast, where we will sometimes talk other sports besides Cougar. I'm kidding. We very rarely do that. But it's been an awesome time having you on the podcast, Bill. I've enjoyed every second of it, even when we argue. That's why we are really good friends. It's just an absolute pleasure having you on. It's always 2 hours of talking F1 is very little compared to what we normally do on an everyday basis talking F1. You are the reason why I got into F1. So I thank you so much for that. You are a true friend and a true saint. There is a reason why you have been the best man at. If I get remarried, there's a good chance you're best man. You're at least the groomsman. All your friends want to have you around them. So just as an aside, there, I just wanted to thank you for coming on and for doing all that you do for the podcast. We love all your graphics. You're a good man, Charlie Brown. But that is it for this episode of the Scott and Holman Podcast. If you want to be like myself or Bill and support us via Patreon, which is so funny that I still do that. You can find us on patreon.com/SH podcast. If you want to find us on social media, you can find us on Twitter at SH podcast. On Twitter, if you want to find us on Blue Sky, you can find us at podcast.bsky.social. Bill, shout out your Blue Sky here if people want to follow you.
Oh, I don't have one anymore. I'm off of social media. I took my cue from you two, and you said if you've ever gotten up with social media, and I was like,
"Good
yeah,
for
let's do
you,
that.
buddy. Good for you. Good for you."
Let's
you
do
can
that.
tell I'm not over there a ton. But you can find us at podcast.bsky.social. I mentioned Patreon. You can also send us an email anyway to send your feedback as well. You can find us on email shpodcast@gmail.com. And as we always say here,
Go Cougs.